This conference will now be recorded.
All right, I'm going to call to order the Tuesday, October 24th, 2023 meeting of the Tilton Planning Board. And the first order of business is a new public hearing for the complete site plan review, conditional use permit for the Colby Enterprise, Inc., 63 Laconia Road, Planning Board Case 23-06, map 23, lot 8-2. And for those of you who don't know what it is, it's the Shell station down on Route 3. So I think we have quite an extensive packet in front of us. I'll make a motion, first of all, to bring the application to the planning board for review.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so let's take a look at it. I'll make a motion to accept the site plan review for approval. Is there a second?
Second, Scanlon.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, as I said, we put quite a packet in front of you, and there's a letter from Keach, and Leanne just received this, so it's given to us, so this addresses the things that have been brought up in the past by zoning and also by conservation. And I believe there's a letter in the packet that was sent some time ago by the Conservation Commission for things for us to look for. And there's also information from the fire department. So those things are in our packet. Okay, any questions before we have our presentation from the planning board?
Not this time. So,
No? Okay,
Right.
welcome.
Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. My name is Chris Rice with TF Moran. I'm here on behalf of the owner and applicant, Colbia Enterprises Incorporated. With me tonight is Michael Gazdaco, who's with Colbia Enterprises. He's the director of construction and maintenance for their company. As mentioned, we're here tonight to request a conditional site plan approval for the proposed redevelopment application that was submitted. And the application also includes a conditional use permit request, which is to allow work within the wetland buffer and to allow more than 15% impervious coverage because we are in the groundwater protection district. I've handed out packets just for you to reference. It includes a proposed site plan, which is in color, a copy of the existing conditions plan, which was prepared by GPI Greenman Peterson Inc., a wetland buffer impact plan, an on-site impervious reduction plan, and a photo from their recently completed Nashua store. It opened, I say recently, it opened in 2021. They just opened a store in Hooksett this year, but I didn't have any great photos of that completed project yet. Excuse me. Subject parcel is tax map 23, lot 8-2, which has an address of 63 Laconia Road. It's located in the regional commercial zoning district. And as mentioned, it's the existing Shell gas station that's right next to the Tilton Diner. The existing site is approximately 1.75 acres in size. And it currently contains an existing gas station and convenience store, which is approximately 2,650 square feet. It also has one existing co-tenant in the building, which is Subway sandwiches. There's 4 existing fuel dispensers on site for a total of 8 fueling stations, as well as a single diesel dispenser at the south end of the property. The site's abutted by Laconia Road and US Route 3 to the north. There's a Walgreens across the street. To the east is the Hobby Lobby, Applebee's, and Staples Plaza. And to the south is the small retail plaza, which contains the Dunkin' Donuts, the pizza shop and Chinese restaurant. And to the west is the Tilton Diner. So the proposed project includes demolishing the existing building and the fueling stations, removing all the old tanks underground, constructing a new 5,273 square foot building with a new fueling canopy. It would have 6 dispensers for a total of 12 fueling stations on site, as well as a diesel dispenser area. The redevelopment also includes improvements to parking, grading, utilities, landscaping, and stormwater management on site. 21 parking spaces are required. We've provided 30, I believe it's 38 on the property. This includes 12 at the dispensers themselves. It also includes 2 accessible spaces and 4 electrical vehicle spaces, which are located right here. We'll also be improving the circulation on the shared access drive by better defining the rear access area. If you're familiar with driving that area, it's pretty wide, expansive pavement, so we cut down that entrance to make it more defined while still allowing for truck and emergency vehicle equipment. We've reviewed the fire truck movements with the fire department. There's no wetland impacts as part of this project. Regarding the conditional use permit and the associated buffer impacts, we did present this application a while back to the Town Conservation Commission. I believe we've addressed all their comments and concerns. We did receive a favorable recommendation of the Planning Board. The buffer impacts are shown on one of the handouts. Handed out to you just to help clearly see what's going on. The only permanent impact of the buffer is this orange area here, which is, when I say permanent, we're putting in a flared-in section just for a drainage pipe outlet and some riprap to dissipate the flow. The green area here is what I call a temporary impact because it's open space now. We're just regrading a little bit to recreate a drainage swale that used to be in that area, but it will go back to open space. And this blue area here is existing pavement that's within the buffer that we're removing, but it's technically an impact because you're in the buffer. But that blue area is currently pavement that will go to open space. The grand total of all the impacts is about 1,376 square feet now with the current plan, which is, I think, about 300 square feet less than what we presented to the Conservation Commission. So we've made a couple updates to just make it a little bit better. As to impervious coverage, there's a separate handout. Well, let me run through it. So the areas in green are existing impervious surface that's on the site. Oh, sorry. So on this plan here, the green areas are what is existing pavement on site. The cross-hatched areas are what is proposed. Where those overlap is basically existing impervious that's going to remain impervious. Areas that are solely green are areas that are pavement currently that will become open space as part of the proposed plan. I can go through the numbers exactly if you'd like, but the overall there's overall a reduction in impervious coverage on the site of about 4.2%, which is about 3,200 square feet. Relative to site stormwater and drainage design, the existing site doesn't have any stormwater treatment whatsoever right now. Everything sheet flows off into the shared access drive, which eventually works its way to the brook, or it directly just sheets off the property way to the brook. There's an area here that was pointed out to us during our first Conservation Commission meeting where they mentioned that there's some ponding that happens in the major rainstorm events. So we did look into this. There's some older plans from when the site was originally constructed that showed a drainage swale along this back property line. The current survey and topography basically showed a couple humps in that area. So it looks like over time some vegetation's grown in and some sediment is filled in. So as part of our plan, we're going to correct this issue by essentially installing a drain inlet right there and piping it to a location here where we can then recreate that swale. So it should eliminate those drainage issues for the larger storms. We've also reduced the peak rate of runoff as part of our drainage analysis, which was submitted to the town review engineer, shows that we've reduced the peak rate of runoff in all storm events to all discharge locations. There's about a 70% reduction in the peak rate of runoff in the 2 and the 10-year storms and about a 25% reduction in the 50-year storm event. Pre-treatment, we've provided pre-treatment, treatment, and detention as part of our drainage system. We're also providing infiltration in one area. Most of the areas that come into contact with any fueling whatsoever can't be infiltrated into the ground. So those systems, we have a method of pre-treatment, and then it's treated through a jellyfish cartridge system, and then it's into an underground chamber system, which helps detain and release the flow at a slower rate. There was one area where we could infiltrate some back into the groundwater, and that was the roof runoff. So there is a third chamber system up in this area of the site, which handles the roof runoff and infiltrates that back into the groundwater because that's clean water. We did submit a traffic memorandum as part of the application. This basically shows that there's no new trips on Laconia Road as part of this development. The site will receive a few additional pass-by trips. The pass-by trips, though, it's noted that it should reduce the number of left turns on the Laconia Road because of competing uses along the road. So most people driving, this isn't for everybody, but most people driving a certain direction will try to take the gas station on the right to get a right in and a right out, as opposed to taking a left and trying to make a left back out. So overall, the traffic summary stated that there's no adverse impacts to the roadway network and no offsite improvements are necessary. We did present an application back to the Zoning Board of Adjustment back in January of this year, and we received variances at that time to allow some pavement, the drainage pipe I mentioned, some decorative bollards, and a sign within the setback area. The existing pylon sign out front is currently within the setback. We're placing it in kind, but we needed to request the variance to do so. And the existing sign is larger than what is currently allowed by regulations. We're over that amount, which is what one of the variances we obtained was for, but we are less than what's currently existing. We also received a variance to allow the lights on past 11 p.m. And then we went back to the ZBA because we ran into this with the dialysis clinic to get a special permit to remove. You need a special permit in town based on the regulations to remove any material from the site. So we don't intend there to be a lot of material, but inevitably there's some material that gets removed from the site when you're doing a redevelopment of this scope and magnitude. We've also presented to the Town Sewer Commission, and the application has been through the Winnipesaukee River Basin Program. It's been sent on to DES. We've received a couple minor comments from DES, but we expect our sewer discharge permit shortly. There's a permit that we're also waiting from one of the subconsultants just for the underground tank storage. These will be new double-walled underground tanks, meeting all current regulations, and again, all the old tanks known and whatever they find on site when they start the excavation process will be removed. We reviewed the plan with the fire department early on in the process and have a letter of approval from them. We went through all the site circulation and parking and everything met their standards. We did just receive the town review engineer's letter this afternoon. I had a moment to glance at it, and we can address all those. They're pretty minor comments, and we can address all those as a condition of approval if it's the pleasure of the board. And then finally, I have just included a picture of the site in Nashua that they built. Colbia really takes pride in their sites and maintaining them, and we feel this will be a vast improvement to what currently exists. I'd like to thank planning staff, DPW, Johanna at the Sewer Commission, the Fire Department for all their help through the process, and the Town Conservation Commission. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Planning board, any questions, comments?
I have several.
Okay.
Just because it just hit me when I'm looking at what is proposed, and I'm just going off of recollection. But is there any type of easement on the Dunkin' Donuts parcel for view? Because this building will block their view. I remember when another facility went in up the road, they had a view easement. And I don't know if we have that here.
Kristen, we talked about this a little bit at the zoning board meeting. They were talking about,
I believe that there are no
there's no
view
easement.
easements as far as we're aware.
I just wanted to make sure.
And we are aware it will, I guess, somewhat block up the building in one location, but it also opens it up from
On the other side, right?
Yeah.
the fueling canopy that's there now. And you can kind of see it based on this plan here. You can kind of vaguely see where the fueling canopy is now. That kind of blocks that view to some degree anyway, but putting the building here now opens up the views as you're coming down the road this way to see this building here where you really couldn't before. And this view pretty much stays unchanged. So it's really just if you were right in this area, right smack in the middle of the site, that you might notice the difference, I think. But to answer your question, simply, there's no view.
Okay. I
easement
just
at
wanted to
all.
make sure that we're not any surprises later on there. All of a sudden, you're halfway building your building and someone goes, hey, they can't see us. So my next question, just because I don't, it's not, maybe it is. Is this orange thing over here to the left of that building? Is that the diesel?
That's the diesel fueling canopy, yes.
Okay. So that's going to tie into my third question / comment.
Okay.
The line for the drive-through at Dunkin' Donuts.
Back here.
Yes, that traffic backs up on, I don't know, along that blue line, we'll just say. And if you have a tractor trailer trying to fuel up, there's going to be a traffic issue because you're going to have people get impatient there. I've almost been hit there because I made the mistake of going there at the wrong time of day. And, someone came whipping around the line as I was pulling out. So they create two-way traffic going in.
Yep.
And that left lane is really the exit lane. And I'm just concerned that drive-through line can be.
That diesel location is where it is now, though, isn't it?
No, the existing diesel.
I think it's behind,
closer
yeah.
To here.
Okay.
It's generally, it's the same truck movement that's there currently.
But
I guess it would only be
you're also going to have, it looks like, people trying to pull in now into that drive-through lane. And I don't know what your stack up is on that drive-through lane.
I believe we showed 10 spaces there. And this drive-through is I believe it's going to be Subway still with the drive-through.
But is it 10 spaces from the food window or is it 10 spaces from this concrete pad?
Do you want me to count the space at the pickup window or not count that?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. You say 10, so I just don't know.
So if you include the one parked on the pad, there's 10 stacking spaces there. If
Okay.
you don't include it, there's 9.
Well,
Which should be plenty for a Subway, I would think.
No, I'm just worried about, again, that at certain times, well, then again, Subway isn't generally open. Well, they are open for breakfast, but they're
Not the same rush that a Dunkin' would have for breakfast.
not this, unless they get good coffee, then you never know. I don't drink coffee, so I don't know.
I don't think I've seen traffic backed up that far.
Oh, I have. It's I've seen it backed up. And I've seen it a couple times backed up all the way to the ATM. So
Isn't that more of an issue with like the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through layout and their parking
Yeah.
versus the neighboring lots?
Mm-hmm.
well, yes and no, because the way they have this line here, it's going to impact people trying to exit Dunkin' Donuts. So it is going to impact this lot.
Well, that blue line is just the property line. There's no demarking line there or anything. That's just.
No, I know that, but he's saying it doesn't impact. Well, it will, because if if to the right of that blue line is backed up with cars, people trying to come into your facility, tractor trailer or whatnot, there's gonna be issues. That's all.
But doesn't that already exist
I was
given
just gonna say
the
the same
current
thing, yeah.
location of the diesel fueling? Because like I where the pumps are currently located, I've gone there a couple times to get jerry cans filled, and there's plenty of space for 18 wheelers.
Yeah. I checked that out today for that very reason.
So
I don't see it as being a major problem.
with the diesel fueling island, is it going to be fueling on both sides and then a subway parking spot?
Nope, it's one way along the back. So this is the drive-through lane here, and then we have a 20-foot space purely for the fire. They wanted 20 feet for the fire truck access. So that's just 20 feet clear going all the way around. This is the diesel truck would park here, but there's an island separating them from the drive-through. So you could have a truck parked here and people still in the drive-through lane, and then there's 20 feet beyond the diesel canopy area for the fire truck. So you get all three.
Is it a single or two diesel pumps?
It's just one.
Okay,
single.
all right. Yeah, thank you.
And is that curbside or roadside?
I'm sorry?
Is it curbside or is it roadside fill?
Curbside fill.
Oh, it's the right side.
Left side of the truck, because he
Left
pulls.
side is the roadside, right side is the curbside.
I'm sorry. Yes, the roadside.
Roadside.
Roadside of the truck.
And there's no access on the curbside.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
John, you had a question, I believe.
Yeah, a couple questions. I'm trying to find which page it was on, but regarding the swale, there was the comments on fertilization in the drainage swale. That swale goes directly into the brook there, and I really can't see how that would be a good thing to do, is to, because of runoff. Possibly if a liquid fertilizer was used as opposed to like a slow release pelletized, that way it would absorb right into the ground as opposed to sit on top when you get a rain and it would pass nitrogen into the brook.
You could certainly look at that, or possibly sod, just to get it
Yeah.
for
Or
that area.
the other thing is in the swale, so you don't have to maintain it, mow grass, you could put wildflowers or something like that that looks nice, but you don't have to maintain it. And I think there were comments about mowing that too, and it's somewhere in there. You probably,
I had
vaguely know
honestly had
what-
5 minutes to glance through Steve. I read through really quick just to make sure there were no, hey, you missed a zoning issue or you missed this
Yeah.
restriction. So I read through, and basically I can address all the comments. I just haven't gotten all the way through them all in terms of how I'm going to address it.
Okay, the other thing was, I noticed that there's some pine species in the landscaping. Along the front, there's 3 bushes right by the entrance, as well as 2 to the left of that. I think that's out by the flagpole. I mean, that's kind of up to you, but pine, you get pine rust and it's killed very quickly by salt. And that's going to be an area where you're also planning on storing snow. Not sure about juniper, but you might want to check into that, because, you plant it and a year later, you're going to be redoing it. There's other plants that do much better with salt environments, but
It causes juniper to brown. I know that from
yeah.
experience.
And so juniper and the pine, which are located in these islands, and I think there was one other place I saw it.
I can double check with our landscape architect, and I can commit to that. We'll keep the same number of trees. Maybe we'll swap out some of the species if there's one
Yeah,
that makes more
it's
sense.
for your benefit, yeah. The other thing, now there's something about 500-foot setback from a well. Do you know where that well is?
I believe they're referring to the Tilton Diner well that's out over here, because our water is a shared well right now with the Tilton Diner. So I think that radius is just reflective of that protective well radius for the Tilton Diner.
So have permits been obtained to allow that? What's within the setback?
We are in the process of obtaining those permits with the state for the new underground storage tanks.
Mm-hmm.
And That is a recommended condition from Steve Keach, is to get those permits in
It's
place.
on
and
Oh, I
have
didn't-
permit
the
numbers
first
approved.
page. It's
Oh,
Keith's.
I missed on
Yeah.
there. The other thing is, I believe there's a town ordinance regarding setbacks from wells. Setback from wells.
Septic, there's the
I thought there was wells too.
Or well, but I think if
think
you
it's
said
septic.
500 feet, I
Okay.
think that's greater than what the town would be.
Yeah.
It's more restricted than what the town's ordinance would be. I've never heard of 500 feet.
Yeah, well, if you're going to change the setback, if it's going to be closer than 500, would it be within the towns as well?
I'm pretty sure it would be. I think that the towns might be 75 feet.
I was just gonna say.
Is it
75.
75?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think
thank
it's
you.
75.
I'm not personally working on the underground storage tank design,
I
but
can find it.
there's a separate firm that's doing that. And we will, before any construction takes place, have that permit in hand and have that added to the plans. And their tank plans will become part of our plan set as well.
That was it. Looks good.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, John.
Well,
He's
yeah,
not
well,
through yet.
I think it's a great improvement. If you, I'm not sure if you realize, but that was the salt shed
Long
for
time
pipe
ago.
paving. And if you take the suspended ceiling out, you can still see it was a pole barn. Interesting construction there. It should
Yeah.
come down pretty quick.
And that pooling, that will be a great improvement
Hmm.
because that gets very bad very quickly.
Yep.
And cars can't even get through at some point.
But
This should solve
that's the
that.
big thing is the fertilization.
Yep, we can definitely
Yes,
take care
you
of
can.
that item.
Tom, I think you had a question?
Yeah, I'm asking your indulgence because I've got quite a few of them.
Okay.
And the other one that I don't think it was addressed, but it was touched on was snow storage.
Yes.
And is that snow storage, you have a designated area for that snow storage?
Yes, I do. We went through this with the Conservation Commission also. So we have 3 areas for snow storage. Right now, most of the snow storage is along this back edge, and it's within feet of the brook because the pavement is within feet of the brook. So that's where they push it now. So we have an area defined here in the front for snow storage. We have an area here in this island, and then we did call out for an area here. But what we did was we've regraded this area such that the first 20 feet off of pavement pitches towards the site. So all the snow runoff should melt our way and get into our drainage system rather than go into the brook.
Yeah, and one of the things that concerns me is now that you're going to do away with the Concord bus service. And that's a very important thing to people in a town that really don't have any other way of getting transportation. And I would like some encouragement, if you can, is that that's going to be reinstituted or in some place removed or relocated so that, some of these people can, use that service.
I know that our operations director has been in discussions with the operators of the bus service. I believe they're looking for an alternative location close by. I'm not privy to those discussions, but we'll keep discussing it with them. We've given them ample notice to be able to find another location. We'd be open to talking to them again about coming back, but I don't think we have any agreement on our new facility yet. But we gave them notice, 3 or 4 months ago that we were proposing this for the spring of 2024. So we gave them plenty of notice to find reasonable accommodations.
Sure. Okay. One of the other things that concerns me, Mr. Rice, is that your report here, a traffic memorandum, and at the bottom it says New Hampshire DOT says there's 17,360 vehicles a day going by that facility. It's a little concerning from a town that's got 3,600 people in it. And I don't think you can do anything about it, but I just want it noted that there is a concern here from myself and from some of my neighbors that maybe an increase in the traffic. That being said, I want to move on. In the drawings that you have submitted to the planning board for our approval, and they start in drawing C-03, and go up to C-14 and, yeah, C-14. And it's a revised grading near the proposed generator. Where is the proposed generator? Because it isn't allocated in any one of these drawings.
See that pad right? That's
Well-
that pad right there. Right here on the plan for everybody else, it's concrete pad.
That's just, all that shows is a concrete pad. Right here, on this drawing.
Yes,
What's this?
that's the note, proposed concrete pad for generator.
Oh, thank you. I'm looking over here at the transformer platform.
Those, so one of these, do I need the mic? Or can you hear me okay?
I can.
You
Oh,
gotta have the mic
yeah.
because it's recorded.
It's recorded.
There's two transformers on site. One is for the building itself. The second transformer is to service the electrical vehicle charging stations because those require actually more power than the building does. So we've worked with Eversource over the last year we've given them all the load calcs and that's what's required. So these two boxes with the T are transformers and that is a sector, it's like a small sector cabinet for the electrical vehicle charging stations. And then these four black boxes just represent the little concrete pads that the charging station sits on. There should be notes.
Now this, I'm going to bring your attention back to this proposed concrete pad for generator. Now, is this a standby emergency generator?
Yes,
It is?
yes,
Okay. And it's completely automated?
yes.
Okay. I've got a couple of other questions.
Sure.
A lot of work here. This is your lighting layout, and it doesn't have a sheet number on it, but it's a lighting proposal LD 157809-1. And you have three forms of lighting here.
Yes.
And the one lighting that I'm concerned about is SCV, LED 13L and 23L, 50 watts each.
Those, I believe, are the canopy lights on the inside.
Well,
the canopy.
the picture here shows that it has side lighting.
That's because this is the roof of the canopy.
Yeah.
They're stuck up inside the canopy.
So would you say this is a reverse parabolic system, something like that? This is not on the side? This is not lit, illuminated on the side?
That is correct. They're downlights from the canopy. Yeah, on the underside of the canopy, they're actually inside the metal decking.
Inside the decking, so this is a frame.
So you're going to have 24 of these?
I think there's, I have to look at the chart again.
It says 18, and 8.
Yep.
Okay.
26.
Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry, 26.
And I think that's because there's a couple in this fuel dispenser, this canopy here.
Okay,
And it's
Okay.
to illuminate the underside of that fueling canopy
okay,
to make sure there's adequate lighting.
okay.
Those spill over from the canopy. They're recessed up in the canopy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I thought that they were on a pole.
No, all
Oh,
the-
okay,
all the-
okay. Thank you very much for that.
No, I don't. No, no, there's no lights external on the canopy. They have the two shelves.
Yeah, I was just wondering if like the canopy itself was like.
Oh, does it light up before the inside lighting?
Yeah, it's not, as you said, but I was just curious.
I don't believe it is. I don't know if it shows up a little brighter if you got the light behind the plastic, if it glows a little bit, but I don't think that's the intent. I don't think I have another board.
I've got one more, and I can't find the sheet right now. But it is the, I believe it's the lighting plan for the canopy. Oh, I have it. Be patient. This is sheet C12. And the shell sign F is 4 foot by 4 foot.
Yes, that's their.
No, are those illuminated signs?
Those are the two, they call them pectrums, there's the corner of the canopy, there's one here and one there.
Okay,
They stand up on top of the canopy.
right.
But
Are those illuminated?
I'll just say your chart here says that if, Mr. Damon, you said letter F,
Yes,
and it says internally lit.
Okay, I apologize. Those two are. They must be.
Yeah, that would.
If INT is internal, I don't.
So
It
not the
says,
whole
it
canopy,
says
just
the
that.
red bar is illuminated.
If you look here.
so is the whole fascia of the canopy lit or just the shell sign itself?
That red band light up?
It says
So
the red-
there's a halo effect on the red band. It's more of a decorative element. So there is some lighting emanating from the red band, and then the shell pectins are internally illuminated. It's not a huge amount of light. It's more to draw your attention to it, to show the brand. The lighting from the underside of the canopy is the illumination of the fueling positions.
So it's more kind of like,
It's like a decorative element for the outside of the canopy.
yeah, it more glows like a glow
Exactly.
stick
It's a halo
versus, like,
effect is what they
shining.
call it.
Yeah.
So like the exit sign type thing.
But look across the street to the windows.
Yeah, like look across the street. Shell.
There is.
In the past, we've had concerns about some of this form of lighting, especially with, the abutters and neighbors that have been here. I don't know if it's going to work. I don't know if it affects that, it's not many residentials around there.
No. We're completely surrounded by commercial development.
Okay. I apologize if I've forgotten anything.
I'm here if you remember.
Eric, you had another question?
The fuel storage tanks, I haven't had a chance to dive into those, but are those double wall, triple wall?
So right now we have a mix of single and double wall tanks that are aging and need to be replaced on the existing facility. The proposed new tanks will be double wall brine filled so that anytime there's an issue, the brine causes an alarm right away. We know before there's a release. These are the top of the line industry standards now, along with double wall product piping running directly, completely sealed from the tank to the dispensers. So there's never any issues there. It's an interstitial weld in between each fitting. This is top of the line Franklin piping, and it's what we use on all of our new stations now.
Thank you.
We'll be removing all of the old tanks. Like I told the planning department, we're not sure what we're going to find when we dig up there, but we're going to remove everything.
I didn't see anywhere on the plans for trash cans.
We have a dumpster enclosure here.
Yep.
Trash
That
cans.
was it.
It's enclosed, totally enclosed.
Well, we have requirements when there's takeout food at places that you have to have trash cans, a certain number of trash cans.
Oh,
On
you mean
site?
on-site receptacles.
Yes.
We can, I don't show those on site, but I know they put them throughout their property at the fuel.
Yeah, we put them at every dispenser location and at the entry doors and at the drive-through. There's always a trash receptacle. So there's at least 2, 4, 6, 8. There will be 9 at least around this facility that we'll manage.
Yeah. I forget what the town requirement, I think it's like 1 for every 10 or something like that. But it seems like you,
It's
9, you certainly,
It's in the
Yeah.
litter, it's in the litter ordinance. I can look at it and email you what it
yeah.
is when
I'm
you're
sure
ready to.
9 compared to the number of spaces is over it, I'm sure.
There's usually one with gas stations by every pump.
Yes.
Yeah.
The setback for the well that I found was 250
Okay.
from fuel tanks, underground fuel tanks, per the state environmental codes.
I know we're improving the distance now from the tanks to what they are to the well. We're pushing it further away. The existing tanks are.
We more, yeah, 250 is, yeah.
So is that, do you still need the,
There's still a waiver being requested as part of the permit for the underground storage tanks, the UST permit approval. So again, there's a separate firm that's working on that with the state at the moment. But we will make sure that staff has that and we incorporate that in our plans before.
to the town? What was the town one? Is that
Well, we go by the state, which is 250.
Eric, you got another
I
question?
just have one more, just because it's a nitpicking. So the bridge that goes to the adjacent lot that is no longer in use. So is
Yes.
there any consideration given to looking into that bridge?
Yes, and we're not touching it, to be honest. We're not even sure if they own it. It's half over the property line and half not. I did talk to the fire department. They said it's not passable, and it was kind of.
It would have been such a godsend to have that bridge.
And going along with that bridge, I was there when the first developments went in, the diner and all that. And that was, they couldn't put in unless they had a second means of egress on there. And they talked about making one onto 140, but the allowance was made that provided that bridge was maintained and kept open so that the fire department have an additional egress.
I
don't know
did
where
review the
that
matter with the
stands.
fire department. They said they didn't need it for their.
That was an original site plan on developing that, I believe. I don't know where it is, but, and who is responsible for it, I don't know.
We're not sure either. We're removing all the pavement up to the abutments just to get the pavement out of the open space because there's excess pavement on site. We figured it'd be better for it to be open space. There's some Jersey barriers that are there now that block the path, but we were told in no uncertain terms that it's not safe for vehicle passage. And so
So would your construction be blocking that if they realize that that has to be put back in? Because it seems like your drainage swell, is that in the middle of where that is, or?
sorry. Our drainage swale is right here in the back, right here. Those two abutments for the bridge are here and here. So if something ever happened where you had to
Put that bridge
recreate
back
the
in?
access, you could come right off of this edge of pavement and go that way. Like I mentioned, the fire department said they don't need it to meet any of their fire code requirements. And they wouldn't want to bring any of their vehicles over it.
No, it's not existing collapse, but I don't know who had the easement for that or whose responsibility that was to maintain, who that would be in archives.
Yeah. And the property line, as you can see, runs right through the middle. I'm not sure if it's half owned by the state because the rest is is that state property there or is that?
It's the other plaza.
So I'm not sure, to be honest.
Any other questions from the planning board? No?
Sorry. Hours of operation, is it 24 hours again, or is it?
It is with what they're proposing for approvals, what it's listed as. I think they're going to kind of see how things go when they first open up, but their intent is to be 24 hours.
Will tractor trailers be allowed to sleep there overnight? Okay.
I was going to say, I don't think there's
Uh,
space for that.
Well, there's that one area kind of along the curb there, but
Just for clarity, there are 6 convenience store gas stations in town, and only 2 of them are open 24/7. One of them is Irving, the other one's a Shell station right across the street. All the rest are closed. And they either close at 10 o'clock or they close at 11 o'clock. So that's just information.
Thank you.
I'm also looking for a sheet that I studied earlier, and it was something to do with a chlorine injector. Does that sound familiar to you?
Chlorine injector. Doesn't sound familiar off the top of my head, but
It was on one of your, on one of your working drawings here. I don't know if it had to do with the septic system.
no, we don't have a septic system. We're on sewer.
Do you have holding
Oh, a
tank?
chlorine injection. We have a holding tank as part of
Right,
the
you have a
sewer.
holding tank?
Yes.
So
So it's probably in a chlorine injection port is what I'm thinking it is, as part of the tank. I can check and
Well, it's kind of important that if it is an injection tank, to be manual or automatic would be a concern. Do you know what I mean?
I'm trying to think of where we even have that on site, to be honest with you. I mean, I know we have a sewer holding tank that's an overflow tank.
And I just, in my previous study, I think it was the other night, I was looking and I said, what the heck is that for?
Page C20, chlorine injection connection.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Nate.
I think that's something that the water department requires.
Yeah, thrust. Yeah.
22.
Yeah, it's part of the water meter, maybe.
Oh. C20.
Chlorine injection.
Yes, so that's a requirement of the Tilton Northfield Agricultural Company.
What does it consist of?
I believe it's an injection port where they're doing the testing of the water before they turn it on to be potable, that they essentially clean it with chlorine, I believe. But I know that's their standard.
But
detail.
it is on the outflow side, correct?
That's for the water service.
Oh, this is on the inside, intake side.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions from the planning board? All right, I'm gonna open it up to the audience. Any questions from the audience?
Joe Jessman. My question is with regard to the current UST underground storage tanks. They're old. I think they've been replaced at least once since that Shell station has been there. I think they dug them up and put new ones in. And I was just wondering if there was going to be like testing wells, if there was going to be soil sampling to ascertain and make sure that that tank has not breached.
Yes, anytime we dig in the ground, we always do analytical testing. Post excavation, we have to send that sampling into DES. We also have to use that analytical testing anytime we send soil off the site to make sure we know what is in the soil. We assume there have been previous releases and they've been either cleaned up or stabilized enough where we'll probably end up having to clean up the rest of it now as we're digging for all of the improvements we're putting there today. But I guarantee it'll be cleaner when we're done than it is today.
Any other questions? All right, otherwise.
Hmm?
All right, back to the planning board. Any more comments?
I'm good.
If you'll give us a few minutes, I think we all need to review Hiram's report because we just got it as you did. So you'll give us a few minutes to do that.
If it does help, I believe they are mainly cleanup items and adding notes and permit numbers to the plans. The email this morning from Steve Keach basically said the plan appeared complete and well done. Then we got his memo, and I think 5:02 or something today. So I've glanced through all the comments, and they're all
And
relatively
we
minor.
got it just when we came into the meeting, so that's why we didn't have a chance to look at it.
And Jane, I spoke to him as well before the meeting, and Chris is right. That's what he reflected to me. You just want to pay attention to a few of the conditions that he mentions, as well as Chris mentioned regarding, sewer and water, prior performance bond, fire approval. You still have to address completeness and the CUP.
You would spend a few minutes addressing the issues of the Conservation Commission outlined in their letter and what has been done. Here, I have a copy.
Ones I remember off the top of my head were the fire department. check out the concrete utility plus electricity. Water separators, fix the roof, sorry. So their first comment was to use oil water separators on site, or they said they support the use of planned oil water separators. They also supported the use of the covered dumpster, so those were already proposed at the time. There was a north arrow that was off on one of the pages. That's completed on the handouts that you have. At the time I presented to the Conservation Commission, we didn't have the drainage design 100% done or the landscaping plan, so they had requested, or they just noted that they weren't able to comment on those. However, I promised Chuck that I would give him a copy of the full site plan submittal when I made application to Leanne, which I did. I sent it to Leanne and to Chuck, as well as I think I sent him a hard copy as well. They asked about the snow storage. They asked that we designate those areas on the final plan, which we did. There was a question about the emergency access. That's when I went and sat down with the fire department again, and it's not required for emergency access. There was a question about the Concord Trailways. At the time, we didn't know what the status was or if that was going to be continued. And those were the only comments they had.
Thank you. I don't know how the rest of the planning board, but I think the conditions should be all of the things that have been brought up by Keith Engineering.
Mhm.
Some of those are fairly simple. They're corrections of a design engineer to change certain things. How does everybody else feel about that?
Yes.
I agree. All the feedback should,
Yeah.
from the Conservation Commission
Yeah.
and Keith should be
Mhm.
added to.
Especially
proposal.
the engineer's recommendations.
I'll work with Steve to address all. I've worked with Steve for the last 23 years.
Okay.
I will make sure we address every one of his comments.
So on page 3, number 4, it says similarly, the applicant seeks the CUP approval. It goes on, it says, again, in the event that the board elects to grant CUP approval, we would recommend a note acknowledging that outcome appear in the final site plan. So you're looking for CUP approval?
We had to request a conditional use permit for work within the wetland buffer, which is to install that new drainage pipe I mentioned. So that was one part of the CUP request, and the other one was to allow more than, because we're in the groundwater protection district, any new developments are restricted to 15% 15% impervious coverage. This site was a little unique in that it's an existing site. We've reduced the impervious coverage from what currently exists. So it was kind of, we weren't sure if we needed to include that as part of our CUP. I think Leanne and I discussed that it was kind of a grandfathered site as long as we were making it better, but to be on the safe side, I think we're requesting it as part of the CUP, just to make sure we cross our T's, dot our I's.
So would that be a separate approval through us on top of accepting the plans?
I think it's almost handled like a waiver request. It is a separate approval.
Have a separate motion for that.
Yeah, we have a separate motion for it. So,
Am I correct?
Mhm.
And then the final site approval conditions, probably help.
So all the variances and conditional use permits are ultimately to improve what the variance is for in terms of, this existing sign is larger than allowed, but you're doing a sign that is smaller than the current sign.
Right.
Yeah.
Too much concrete, but you're having less than currently exists.
Yep. The only one that I guess you could argue is maybe not are the decorative bollards. There's a couple decorative part of their standard. You can see them in this.
Are they sturdy enough to stop vehicles? The little black one?
The ones at the storefront are, these are just around the perimeter of the landscape areas, and they're decorative. They have very low light levels that shine down just to give sort of like a perimeter outline.
I'm going to make a motion that to allow the conditional use permit for the construction in the wetland buffer and more than 15% impervious within the GWPD.
You had to do them separately?
Yeah.
Did he just make one motion or two motions?
No, yeah.
Separate from the overall site approval.
Right.
I also just want to.
Oh, yeah. I'll make a motion first to, I'm going to withdraw the other one, make a motion to accept it as complete.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And now I'll make my motion for the conditional use permit for construction in the wetland buffer and more than 15% impervious surface within the groundwater protection district.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I'm trying to think of what all the conditions are gonna be.
I just have one more question. Would it be possible at this time to, I'm working with you on it, to eliminate the fertilization within 10 feet of the swale, the drainage swale? It's just that tail end of it where it comes out of the pipe.
I guess it's the pleasure of the board. This area here this is the edge of the brook, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
That brown area is riprap, so it's no fertilization. The only fertilization in the buffer is that little strip there on the side slopes. But if you're okay, it's not.
And
Artificial turf. No wheat, or that's no wheat.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to nope. Hold on. I'm lost in the seaweed paper. Here we go. Make a motion to approve planning board case number 23-06 with the following conditions. Adherence to all the recommendations made by the town's engineer in his letter dated today, October 24th, 2023. Elimination of the use of fertilizer within
in the drainage swale.
10 feet of the drainage swale. Swale, not soil, swale.
I'll second that.
Just for clarity on that last item, that would be 10 feet that's in the buffer area, correct?
Yeah.
Because there are areas for the swale that are outside the buffer, like out here where I assume fertilizer would be okay.
Yeah.
I just want to make it clear so I don't do
Well, from the pipe, discharge pipe to the brook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just that one section.
All requirements required by fire.
Yeah, I just, do you have a cheat sheet?
He says all permits in his letter.
Okay.
I thought.
Well, fire won't issue a permit, just the requirements of the fire.
Adherence.
Sprinklers on the canopy, I'm sure you have that, right?
They have something.
Oh. Our fire department said the canopy will be required to have fire suppression.
I think that was what their letter said, but not the building wasn't required, just the canopy.
Correct, just the canopy. Anyway, maybe just mention as required by Tilton Northfield Fire.
All the recommendations of the Tilton Northfield Fire District.
More discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. Have a good
Who
night.
seconded
Thanks
that?
again.
Jane did.
Jane.
I think you seconded it.
I was wondering who seconded it. I had my ears closed. I had my ears closed.
Oh my
I
goodness.
like your guys' stuff.
It's like a little overwhelmed here. I got a lot of stuff. This will make a good campfire.
What's that? I know.
We
It's
killed a
sad,
couple
but
trees.
That's all the landscaping right there.
Oh, that's why. This is here. Okay, that's why I was confused. I didn't read the complete agenda, so I'm like, why do we have?
What's that? First construction? Anticipated spring.
When the weather breaks in spring.
Does anyone know what that lot across from the Walgreens, where like they have like the mums for sale sign?
Okay.
Irving's got that.
Thanks, Chris.
Irving knows that.
It's just sitting on it.
Madam Chair,
Thank you very much.
Thinking of like the Concord
Good
bus,
job.
like,
They bought it for the sign.
Madam Chair.
there's a sign.
So I do have another gentleman who just wanted to talk to the board tonight. I told him he would come during public input and just speak to you about his site. This is Mr. Gauthier. He owns the property where the bus company is, that we had a change of use for the bus company to move into that building. There was some discussion by the board into what the previous use of that building was, residential, and hence the board requested a new site plan. A letter was sent to Mr. Gauthier requiring him to do a new site plan. So he had some questions, and I told him he would come and speak with the board about that. If you'll allow him to speak, Jane?
I'll say. I thank you.
State your name for the record, and then we'll proceed.
I'm Michael J. Gauthier. My mom and dad were Robert and Rosemary Gauthier. And we've owned the property down across that First Student buses come out of for, most of my life, And I received this letter, and it starts out by saying that the Tilton Planning Board meeting, anyways, it goes up to after consideration. My whole life, my folks have had businesses down there like RG Driving School. I don't know if you guys remember Belknap Pools, Papa's Wood Toys. It's always been a commercial. It says change of use, but it's always been commercial. I never changed nothing. I took down a deck that was out back, but other than that, I never did anything different there. It's always been commercial zoned, and it's always been offices in there and stuff. And I guess I don't understand. It's not changing use. It's always been a commercial property. So I don't know why I don't understand this right here. You guys probably don't have this paper. Are you familiar with what I'm saying?
We're familiar with what, yeah.
Yeah.
First Student is in there now.
Well, they've been in there for about 15 years.
Well, they moved into a new building.
Yeah, but it was my mom's old office. My mom used to teach driver's ed, R&R driving school. And before that was Bob's Slow Service and Belknap Pools, and it was always a business. So it was never, it's just, I touched up the paint a little bit, but I never, it was always a business. It wasn't a residential, So,
No, we know that, but we had thought that it was a TV repair
no.
at one point in time.
My mom, I don't know, Phil's TV you're referring to, I think.
I think it was.
I don't know what that was. I think there's a building that I keep for myself to doing stuff down there. to maintain the property. And I think Phil, at one point in time, I met my mom's friend from church, may have done stuff in there, but as far as the building where First Student is, he was never in there. He had a sign out there, and he had a little repair thing in the where I maintain as a, for my tools and stuff to keep the property up, and that's all. But he wasn't really he wasn't there a lot. He wasn't like a retail store or nothing like that. It was R&R driving school is what it was. My mother, and she taught quite a few people how to drive. That's what she did. But wasn't a residential. It didn't go from residential. It's Herb, I don't know his last name, but they had a modular home, a modular office. And so I was deciding what to do with it. And he says, well, maybe we could rent it from you. And I said, yeah, sure. So we put it together, and he just, went from where he was. So he wasn't renting that place and renting this place. He was just renting one place.
But there was some construction that took place there.
Yeah, I just painted it up. I didn't do nothing, no switches, I mean, I straightened the outside, kind of look ratty, but I mean, I didn't do no new walls or nothing, I mean, I did actually I did a little bit of outside stuff just so it was more attractive, you know what I mean? Because it was run down and the clad boards were falling apart, but I didn't build no new rooms or anything like that. Everything was the same. My mom's office was in the front, my dad's office was in the back, and now Herb's office is where my mom's was, and Heidi's, whatever his assistant is in the back, and it's been the same. It's been the same for years and years. I just not sure. But this is how it, what I'm saying? I'm not sure what to do.
Right. John?
So the occupant changed in it, right? The occupancy to different person.
Yeah, it wasn't occupied for quite a while.
Yeah. So
I couldn't afford
it's not us asking, it would be the zoning regulations. And under Article 10.10.4.1, it says that you have to get a new certificate of occupancy in that and a site plan when occupancy of a commercial or industrial building changes.
It didn't change though. It's always been an office.
But the
occupancy has changed.
And it doesn't have to be a big formal thing. Just, we put something on file that shows that, and, parking and that, and it doesn't have to be an engineer or anything. Yeah.
I went to Tilton, Northfield before it was called Winnisquam. And I'm at loss at this. Maybe, maybe I'm overthinking it. And I don't mean to. I'm not trying to cause no issues. I just don't understand it. Is there someone I could go to fill this out or something? I don't know how to fill this type of stuff out. And it's always been commercial property, so I didn't think I was doing something wrong. But I mean, I just don't want to fill it out wrongly. I don't know how to fill this out. And is there somebody who can tell me how to fill this out with? You know what I mean? I just don't want to cross some stuff off and not be doing it right.
We can most certainly guide you somewhat through it. And you can help them to show what's required on that. Just pretty basic site plan.
Yeah.
Parking. That's it.
And
Student First had submitted with their change of use a marked up drawing of the buses and the lot. I know you wanted more than that, so.
That was the buses in the lot, and then later
Right.
on they took over the building, so it would be for the occupancy of the building.
And I wouldn't think it would be the owner of the property. I would think it would be the first
Has to
student.
be the owner.
The first student people.
No, it'll be the owner that does the site plan. It's his property, right?
Yeah, because the owner's the one having the tenant of the building change. Although I guess my question is, are there multiple tenants of that property overall?
No, there is They were renting here to the right, like 558, and they gave that building back to the people they were renting from, and then they're on 554. It's the same people. It's been for 15 years.
They were in a temporary trailer, like a construction trailer, an office trailer. They removed the office trailer from the site. They were renting it. And there's a building that was existing building on the property that was an office,
Right.
according to this gentleman. And they just moved into that office and got rid of the portable office from the site. So it's still all the bus company. They just got rid of the trailer and put their office in what looks like a house, but it's an office.
Yeah.
I mean, so the bus company is the only rental tenant of
Yeah,
that property?
they've been there for 15 years or so, and there's nobody else or anything.
I mean, is there any change of use then? The tenant is the same,
I
the
think,
property
No.
is the same, they're
The
utilizing.
tenant moved from one place to there.
so I'm just going by verbatim what our regulations say that we have to do, and that would be as it down to me.
So first student,
They didn't move. They moved about 50 feet.
but
Over.
we're talking, they're in a different building
Yes.
on the
Yeah.
same lot,
Yeah.
and they're renting the entire lot essentially. There are no
Correct.
other tenants.
Right.
So they're just,
But there's no site plan for that building that includes that building or parking, anything in it.
And that's what our regulations require. You want to give me that? Oh, here it is.
It doesn't have to be real fancy. You can sketch one out. I
You
think
can just
John's
draw it.
brought
What's
stuff
that?
like that before.
What's that site? What do you mean?
I have a
I
question.
know,
Feel free to
can't
step in because I'm
say,
at a loss. What? No, but I don't
He's just
know,
a
so
nice
I'm
guy.
open for suggestions.
Yeah, I mean, just sketch it out. So all they're asking you, from what I understand, they just want you to draw it out.
Draw out.
Where there's the new building that they're in now, because they moved 50 feet.
Mhm.
Say they're in that new building, draw that out on the plan.
Well, in here they have, get in touch with the neighbors and all that stuff
Yeah,
is,
so that's what you have to do. We all have to do. We have to all let our neighbors know that we're doing something a little different. But that's all, you know what the bottom line is at? It's gonna cost you a few dollars. You're gonna pay for the butters to be notified. And this is all gonna go away. You're gonna end up paying about $200 and this whole problem will go away for you.
oh, I misunderstood because on this here it says 250 for this filing fee, 250 for, or 300 for filing fee, commercial, new improvements, $10. I mean, it adds up to over $1,000. It's not the money. It's just I'm more at a loss. I don't know, there's 3 or 4 pages of checking off things and I don't get size and location proposal. I have my own water and septic. I don't even, it's always been, I know where
A
the
lot of
water.
those things are, check them off and do them. And I'm sure, I think,
If they don't
land use
apply,
has it,
if they
I
don't
think, for
apply, just put NA.
Like this one here says all my neighbors. So everybody, when Mike sold this place across the street and the new guy had to do that too. Everybody,
It's in
So,
process over there. Yeah.
I guess I'm lost at. I just don't want to mess it up. You know what I mean? So if you tell me where to go and who to talk to, I'll do it and I'll try to do what you ask me to do. I'm not here to argue or nothing. I'm just
No,
No,
trying
we
to find out
understand.
what to do and how to do it because I'm Irish. I'm stuck at pen and paper and I'm just looking for some
No,
help. You know,
so, I mean, basically, he's here like a conceptual.
Mhm.
So a conceptual will be, you're throwing the idea of what you're doing out there and asking, do
What do
we
I
know
do?
of any,
Right.
you can explain, Jane, conceptual.
so
Yeah.
wouldn't it make sense for him to like schedule a meeting with
With,
someone
yeah.
from like the, building department and like do the application in person, I guess?
Leanne,
He can do the
yeah.
application, but I think he was,
We must have some hand-drawn ones that,
well, we have these that they used before.
You could
Yeah.
mark that up.
Oh, he did. This
Parking.
was marked up, see employee parking. I mean, I guess just a little more detail. This is what we handed in with the change of use, and you wanted a site plan, so I assume you wanted something more. I don't want him to come and then have not enough.
Well, he could draw the inside of the building. Like, well,
Yeah,
but-
the exterior where parking is,
and where the
dumpster,
parking
trash.
and where the handicap, if there's a handicap.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Wouldn't he just write a letter giving permission to a representative, a first student, to come and talk to us as a site plan? Because,
So first student
I-
done
Leanne
this
can help
for
me.
them.
well, no, but I've always thought that if someone owns the property and they were going to put a business on that property, they have to get permission from the landowner in writing to the planning board to do a site plan review.
It's just a bigger-
Am I mistaken?
So
The landowner has to be the one applying for it and sign for it.
He's the landowner.
They-
yeah,
they want more, so I want to know exactly what they want.
The only change that I can see is that it's a different building, but it's really grandfathered for use. If anything, he just needs to sketch out the new building.
It's not a new building. The building's on, is
No,
on.
but it's new for them moving into
Oh.
it. That's like the only thing that is, but really, if he's grandfathered, I think there's a hard case saying that there's a new business in it.
Yeah. John, you're
Well,
not on the
if you
planning
look
board,
at
okay?
the zoning regulations, that it explains that, and it's not a big, like, engineering type thing where he has to get done. It's, like you said, it's not.
So I have a
But
question about the regulation because it says post 1999. So we've had this regulation for 24 years.
Yeah.
Businesses have operated out of that location for
30.
over a decade at least. There have been multiple businesses there. How is there not a site plan?
Exactly.
And
And that's what we're trying to rectify now is get things, that doesn't make it any better, but we're going for.
And so the requirements are new building is constructed. No new building is has been constructed. The use of the buildings hasn't changed because they were office space commercial beforehand. The occupant, I would argue, hasn't changed. I mean, if I lease a property with 4 warehouses on it and I'm using one of them for the first year, and then the next year I expand into the second one, I mean it's the same site, it's the same tenant. The owner isn't changing. Like I could understand if the bus company left and a new tenant came in, that this would be required.
But the bus company wasn't there before.
Yeah.
The bus company
Been there.
was
Was
not
not
on
in
that property.
That's correct.
No,
They-
they were.
They only
They
had
were.
the parking area.
They
previously
were
in the
in. They
trailer.
were in the park. All the land and
So,
stuff.
yeah, they were in a trailer on that property.
Yeah.
They are no longer in the trailer on that property, but they are still on the property they were renting when they were in the trailer. I really,
So that doesn't conform to any previous site plans that we have.
but my
There are none.
right, but my
So-
concern is I don't see how moving out of like a trailer into an existing building on the property, I don't understand how it triggered coming before the planning board
Yeah.
at all, I guess.
So the regulations were supposed to have a site plan for that,
We don't.
and we don't.
Right, but what did they originally come to the planning board for that we told them that they needed a site plan?
So I mean, I can tell you how it happened. So they came to the office and said they were getting rid of the construction trailer. So we wanted them to get a demo permit. So we knew the trailer was leaving. They were moving into the building. So we told them just do a change of use paperwork, so we knew that they were moving into that building. That building was going to be occupied by them now. Staff approved it because according to the change of use, staff is allowed to approve minor changes on site. So we approved it. Then planning board questioned whether that change of use should come before them, which the planning board can review change of uses if there's a question on it. So the change of use came to the planning board, and the planning board looked at it and said it was a residence. And that triggered that it went from residence to office, and they should do a site plan. And the planning board directed me to send a letter to the owner to have them fill out a site plan because there's no site plan on file.
Has anyone
That's how that
been
happens.
living in that building?
No,
Was
it's
anyone
been vacant for
renting?
quite a while. It's just,
I
it's,
thought we had said it was a retail TV repair place.
Apparently
Yeah.
that's another
At
building
one-
on the property,
at one
but not
point.
that
No,
building.
it was that one. It was Phil's TV, right?
yeah, Phil had it's a little building that I keep for putting my stuff in to maintain the property, not where First Student is though. That's always been my mom and dad's office. My mom and dad moved on with the Lord, they're not with me, with us.
Hmm.
So it seems like they're going from office space in a trailer to office space in not a trailer, which isn't a change of use in what the tenant is doing on the property. I mean, so I definitely understand that, okay, there isn't a site plan on file. They need a site plan because it's a, you know, a commercial property. I'm just not exactly sure that they needed to come in the first place, you know, outside of, removing a trailer and, you know, having those materials moved off site. I mean, if I've got, although I guess if there's not an existing certification of occupancy for that building or that site, but I would assume the fire department would have.
Right, we did an inspection of the building, right, for fire safety, for office, where the new occupancy, just like we do with the Tanger Outlet. Every time the Tanger Outlet changes a unit, we do a tenant fit up, we call it, and fire and building do an inspection of the unit. Sometimes there's building plans, sometimes there aren't, but we just do a simple tenant fit up inspections and occupancy permit. We don't change the site plan every time an
But
occupancy
you do have a
changes.
site plan
But-
for all
but
the
you have a
Tanger
site
outlets,
plan
correct?
We do, but
Yeah.
it wouldn't
Yeah,
say
there's
that.
a site plan for the site for that includes that building or the use of the parking, anything on it?
No, we have a lot of sites in town that don't have site plans, old properties that don't have site plans.
I'm old. I'm old. I just,
Hmm.
my mom took care of all this
Is-
stuff and I just want to make sure I do what I
Yeah.
have to do to help you.
Okay, well, we don't need something very fancy. We need something very simple. And Leanne, would you help him with something simple?
Sure. And you will accept something on a site map, like the satellite map that we have? Do you want him
Yeah,
to file
no,
a
that's-
formal
that's
site
fine.
plan with the butters and site application checklist, the whole process? I just wanted to know I don't want him to have to come back twice, just make sure we're covering all
Yeah.
the bases.
I just had one question. Is this one lot or two lots?
It's three. It's always been
I thought there
three.
was 3 lots.
Mark Hildebrand, years ago when me and Mark bought a lot from Cliff Larson and so it's three combined. It's been for years.
So
now.
does he just need to do the site plan for the lot that contains
he's on,
that
yeah.
no, not that he's on, just that building. Whatever
Well,
that
that's
was
what
that
I mean.
540.
But the site
554.
plan needs to include the entire lot, correct?
No.
Mm-mm.
So 554,
So,
according to Google Maps, is the house.
right.
If I'm looking at this correctly.
So the lot,
So I'm gonna butter
Boundaries?
on each side as
No,
myself, right?
this
So
is-
so I just
That may
tell
be an
my,
old one. Let me see.
when it doesn't, you can see where the, you can see where the construction trailer, you can see where
Oh,
the
it's
construction
gone.
trailer,
It's
right, where it
actually-
used to be. This, if you go to Street View, this building doesn't exist anymore. This is the building that the office is in.
Yeah.
So whatever lot this is the only one that he needs a site plan. He does not need to site plan the,
The buses where they're parked and all that parking area?
I
where
would
the
not
employee
have-
park-
No, just where the office is.
so
Is,
that would also cut down on his abutters.
so is it legally?
The office and the parking would be the people who drive the buses. Because they don't park where the buses are. They park at that office. And if I have a child that rides the bus and I want to go talk to somebody there, that's where I would park. And I would go in and talk to them.
So is this 3 separate
I think I'm
lots,
confused.
or
If you want
were they
some,
merged into a
Yeah.
single lot?
They're 3 separate lots.
That's what.
So 13, 14, and 15 are where the
Yes.
bus company operates, and,
No.
and this gentleman owns those 3 parcels?
yes,
Doesn't he own 14, 15, and 16?
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah.
I think. I don't know.
No,
Who owns that? That's a residence.
that looks like Judy's, isn't that
No,
Judy's?
Judy's is here.
It's that
No, that's
little
the one that
house.
has
That
the.
house, it's
Oh, that's
the
not his house.
barrels.
no,
Yeah.
that's Tabasco's.
Oh, okay. So there's 13, 14, 15. Sorry. My
And
mistake.
this is a Roma Joe? What,
No,
No, that's
Sierra
Sierra
Lumber.
Lumber.
what's this?
he owns that. It looks like it's all one property.
Yeah, no, from the street, it looks like it's one
does
property,
look like
and
one
it's
property.
being rented essentially as a
One
single property, but it is technically the lots were never like merged. Yeah.
There was never a lot line adjustment.
Is this where he lives?
No, wait, no, this is somebody different.
Okay.
So keep on.
So this is what we need the site plan on.
But wouldn't you argue that since a business exists on all 3 of those lots all need site plans per
Came in
the ordinance?
The ordinance, I think it says that the how does it read? I think the third bullet. And that's what you kind of have to stick to. Do you have a copy? Do you have the one with the holes punched in it?
And me?
Oh,
I
here
don't.
it is.
I was just curious. It's been probably 7, 8 years since my mom's
So
been
this
gone.
I'm just trying to make it
10.4.1
simple for him.
states occupancy of a commercial or industrial building changes, or ownership of a commercial or industrial building changes. So the occupancy change, it's
I'd be happy to volunteer and create a site plan
Yeah.
for 'em.
it's real simple.
On graph paper, make a big one out, blown up in all the butters and put all the, if that helps them out, I'd like to help if I can.
And I don't.
You guys all right with that if I step in? I don't, just trying to be.
I'm more, she, no.
John, you're not
She's
on the
cuter,
planning board,
number
so
one,
please.
and I just, I'm just familiar with her, that's all.
Yeah.
She's, I don't, I
I-
appreciate the offer though.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's not a real big thing. It's pretty simple. It's they call it dotting the i's, crossing the t's, make sure your paperwork's right, so that going forward from here, you won't have any problems or anything.
It just surprised me, because
Well, no, except for
I don't-
if he just does a site plan for 14, the
Mhm.
next time he does anything at 13 or 15, there won't be a site plan, and he'll have
Would
to,
at that time, if he's
Yeah.
coming in for
he would
that.
have to do a new site plan.
But let's take it one. You'll help him with lot 14, Leanne. I just want to move us along,
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
She'll help you with that,
okay,
okay?
Yep.
And come when you have to come to the planning board and present it, okay?
And I mean, personally, on the conceptual, I have no personal or known problems with what you're doing there.
yeah. Is there a time frame? I'm just asking, sir, what's a
Will
fair
it be
amount
ready
of
by the
time?
next meeting?
Well, I gotta
Well, you
work
won't be
out of
able to
state.
get into the next meeting because we'll have to get a butters
Okay,
notices
yeah.
and all that. So
Yeah.
we'll get it in a reasonable time. If he comes back and meets with you, we'll make sure that
90
we
days?
get in.
Oh, yeah, that's plenty. Okay, I just thought, didn't know if you
And,
needed
and
next week or something.
when you sit down with Leanne, it's gonna take you maybe 10 minutes.
Nothing takes 10 minutes, but I hear what you're saying, and I
Okay.
appreciate it very much.
Okay,
I'm willing to work with her. Thank you. I just wanted to understand. I get a better understanding now.
okay.
And I appreciate you folks listening to me.
Well, thank you for coming
Yeah,
in.
thanks.
Is it okay to come up and get that paper there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Thank you for
Careful those
coming in.
wires.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
All right, Mike, just come back and see me when you get a chance. I'm here every day. Okay.
Thank you very
Okay,
much. I
okay.
gotta work out of town next week.
That's fine.
Okay, thank you. And thank you. No problem.
Okay, next.
Fine, I'll keep it short. I know you guys here late. But I'm interested to find out,
Would you like to tell us your name
I would love to tell you my
and where
name.
you're located?
Sure. My name is John Bernard, and I'm discussing property on 246 Laconia Road, a 50-acre site that is right now in a resort commercial zone, which is a very liberal zone, but it doesn't allow for some of the things that I'm here to talk to you about. And what I'm here to talk to you about is assisted living facility. To start off, I'd like to see if we can get some assisted living facility in there. It would require at least 50 beds to make it economically viable. It may even be a little higher towards 75. And in keeping that in mind, if we do decide that this is something that the town would like to have, we'd also be looking at putting some apartments in there to support them. I've been doing some research, and the research suggests that for every 4 beds that you have in one of those facilities, you need one person, one employee. So if we did somewhere between 75 and 50 beds, we'd need somewhere around 25 employees. As we know, in this area right now, housing is ridiculously tough. So we're basically talking about workforce housing. We're not talking about housing that would be assisted, like what is known as that, but people that can stand on their own. The nurses, even when doctors move into this area, there's really very little choices for them to stay. But not only that, the plumbers, I'll give you an example, and this is what really has set me on this mission, is my son recently moved out and he was looking for an apartment. And he likes to garden. That's his thing. So we looked all over the place, and most of the apartments we saw around here that were available were in pretty deplorable condition. So we ended up finding one down in Nashua, and it was really nice. It was this beautiful setup. It had a garden plot that you can garden. It's not very large, but he ended up going there. As we all know, it's all over the media how difficult housings are. So we have a zoning in this town that allows for that right now. It's called mixed use 2. Even though this zone exists, there's never been any land put in it. It's kind of different, but we don't have it. So what I'm suggesting that we do is that we try to focus on this piece of property alone and put it in a mixed use 2 zoning that allows for more condensed housing. It has city water and storage available to it, and it's really designed, I'd like to read it to you because it's really designed for village type setting. So this is what the mixed use 2 says. It says it is designed to accommodate a variety of residential, retail, institutional, recreational, and services used to integrate planned village-like settings. So this was voted on by the town in 2005, but there was never a vote passed to put any land in it. So we have an opportunity. There's plenty of other things that this land can be developed for, but once it gets developed for something else, you're not going to be able to put it back into this type of things because once you start using the land up, it's done. I suggest it's a 50-acre site. I suggest that we do like 25 acres of it in a conservation or a green space area with walking trails and stuff, and develop the other 25. But really, it's not going to go anywhere without the support of the town. And that's what I'm here to get a temperature of and to see where you guys sit with it. And if it isn't a good thing to do, I can move on. If it does sound like something that we'd want to propose, it would have to go in front of the town and be voted on in March. So I'd like to just sit back and I'm going to sit down and hear from everybody and see what you think.
I mean, personally,
Okay,
as
wait a minute, let's recognize people. I want to preface it by saying that I'm the town representative to the Lakes Region Planning Commission. And last night, we just voted and approved the state proposal for workforce housing. And one of the things that came up was basically some of the things you're saying. We don't have the jobs for people to go to. And even if we have the jobs because there's no training, but if we have the training, and some of that we're going to be getting because of what was passed at Winnisquam, we don't have places for them to live. And that's why people are leaving New Hampshire. So it should be a real concern for the whole state, and particularly in Tilton, because I think all of you have seen where people are living in their cars in places they shouldn't be living, where commuters should be parking. So the issue has got to be addressed. So I welcome listening to any plan that would relieve that situation. Okay. So now, any other people would like to make comments, or
yes,
Nate had his hand up first.
I love the idea of large scale housing. I think the over 55 care focus could be very helpful, because a big issue that I see is there are a lot of people who are getting older, and they are in homes that are becoming more difficult for them to maintain, but due to supply and demand over the last 4 years have also gone up in such value they can no longer afford to live in them. And what the area needs is housing that is downsized for elderly people to move into, that is affordable and maintainable, and then opening up those larger single family homes to younger people and families. And the idea of not just having like a assisted living facility building, and having more of a community is great, because as you noted, we don't have a lot of housing for people to do jobs, but multi-stage living in retirement facilities, in the sense of where you can be somewhere for 5+ years and go from full independence to hospice care, is I think it's much better quality of life care, I guess, than having to go from one to another. But I think it's a great idea, but a lot of costs are definitely associated with such a large type of development project.
Not only to take the project on, but it's a cost for the town too. And I recognize that. Some of the interesting statistics that I found out is that most of the people that live in like really nice apartment type living are ages 23 to 35 without kids. Once they start getting kids, they tend to move off and to go into single family houses to raise the kids. They don't really raise them in that. So really, I think the two places that need to be addressed is assisted living, where people that need to drive or a little, but can't go out and mow their lawn, can't do their things, but still want to live in this area. And they have people that relatives that want to visit them in this area. So I think we're trying to address those two issues along with a village type setting, which would give them like I think of the stores that would be there. It would be like a coffee shop, a sandwich shop, a beauty salon. Those type of things can be supported by that. But I'm sorry, I really want to hear other people. I just want to comment what you're saying. I'm in the line with you.
But look at the Taylor home. That's a beautiful place, and it's the kind of thing you're talking about.
It is, but this is the problem that I have.
John.
Sorry. I have several problems now. So this is one of the problems I have is that we just can't keep adding people that need services to this area without providing a place for the people that need to support that. That's what makes a community. So we say, yeah, we want 55 and older, we want senior citizens. Well, first of all of us go to restaurants and the service is kind of non-existent in a lot of them. There's no people there. If you're trying to find a technician to work on your car, they're non-existent. They have no place to live. It's getting to the point where you try to get some plumbing done or you want to do some electrical. They charge you so much because the cost of where they have to live are. Thanks. I'm going to stop.
I have just an interesting, I hope I can just interject this because I was really surprised by this at zoning board. One of the members of zoning board works at the Veterans Home. And I don't know if you're aware, but the Veterans Home is going to be expanding, putting like, correct me if some of these numbers are wrong, because they were really big numbers, like maybe another 300 or 500 beds. Yeah, no, it's big. It's a big expansion. Whatever it is, whatever the number is, it's a big expansion. And I asked him, well, are you full? Well, I guess this money has to be used even though the Veterans Home's not full. And I believe there's something like 250 beds there now, but there's only like 59 or 79 patients or people occupying it. And I said, are there no veterans? And they said, no, the problem is there's no staff. And that's why those beds are all empty. And I said, you've got that many empty beds at the Veterans Home because you have no staff and there's a waiting list. I mean, that's really sad. And they're expanding more beds because the federal money is there. Do you have some information on this, Nate?
So what they're doing is, I believe most of it is apartments for veterans. So it's not so much nursing care, but more of like a not voucher assisted living, but like veteran limited housing. So it's not. I don't think they're going to require the same level of support as the individuals in the veterans home currently.
Yeah. But my point was more, as John's point was, you have these places that you put in assisted living and there's no one to take care of them because there's no staff. And so you need housing for workers.
I mean, what Tilton needs is 100 studio and 100 one-bedroom apartments, because that is the type of housing that doesn't increase service costs, because as much as a sense, because you can't have a lot of kids. Typically people living in studios are going to be younger, one adult, two adults, so it's not as much cost.
But if you look at the statistics, people don't even want 3 and 4 bedrooms anymore. A lot of people are looking for 2 bedrooms at the most.
Do you know how much they cost, guys? I'm just curious. Do you know how much these apartments cost now out here? Don't blow your mind.
$2,500 a month.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. It's $2,500. You're not getting they're not having raising like 3 or 4 kids. It's usually 2 professionals. A typical example is my son and his girlfriend, both professionals, both gone to college, both do very well. They can live anywhere because they work online. They have to really go to Nashville to find something decent because there's nothing. Sorry, I'd like to hear you.
Tom?
Yeah, I don't know if you're aware of it or not. They're building a community in Franklin now for veterans. It's going to be 25 units. There's also going to be another 25 units for day. They can come in for the day if they want to. Also, they're building 900 units on Manchester Street in Concord. 900 units. 121 of those units are workforce units. The principal of that is Mr. Halt. He owns Halt Honda. several other motorsports businesses. The other direction is the Belknap School on the property has been sold to a developer. They've already scaled it down 30%, just because there's nothing there for them to, they can't fill it. They can't fill it, and they can't house it. I'm kind of on the fence with this project, but the idea is that I'm a senior on a fixed income, and I live on 5 acres. And when I can't take it anymore, that's where they're going to put me, right under that ground, right there. I'm not leaving. And that's all there is to it. And maybe I'll have a kid come, one of my children come and live with me. But I love this place, and I'm staying. So I'm 78. My wife is 83. And we're staying. Thanks.
Just a quick question, reminder question, short-term memory bad. What's that property zone now?
Short commercial.
So a nursing home, or I'm sorry, a residential care facility is permitted in that zone.
Right.
It's the housing.
Only if you read the zoning, go on even further.
Right,
You're
but
only allowed to do 2 units in any lot.
well, you could do cluster development.
You can do 40 on that cluster if you wanted to, but now we're talking about $500,000 homes. And that's okay, if that's the direction.
Oh, no, I'm just looking
I
at,
know the zoning inside, no, I'm with you. And I'm saying, Eric, if that's the way we want to go, I'm okay with it, but it's not going to help us. What it's going to do is going to exacerbate the problem, it's going to make it worse. Because I can go out, I can build out the roads, I can do a cluster development back in front of you, I can do 40 houses in there, no problems. And those are $500,000 homes. And now you still haven't provided for the guy who's going to work. Do you know,
Yeah.
right now the interest rates are 8%. To buy a $500,000 home, you have to make about $190,000. Plus, you got to have the downstroke, which is another $100,000.
Yeah. No, I actually think it's a great idea. I think it's a unique approach where you're combining living where you work, working where you live, that type of thing. I personally, I don't know if I would do that just because I'm a workaholic and I would just never go home. But I think it's a unique idea. I would like to see more information on it, but I think it's something worth exploring. But I think to do mixed use too, I think we're going to have to get the ball rolling on that sooner than later.
So I think really the big issue is with the current zoning, if you go for, some type of assisted facility, you then lose the ability to do anything else. So by doing the zoning change, that essentially makes it much more mixed use as far as like commercial and housing,
Exactly what we're
then
proposing.
you could potentially do things in stages, even where it's, you build out, the first, couple acres of, facilities and housing and stores, and then you could add on, over time to make it more fiscally feasible.
Agreed.
Yeah, definitely. My kids moved out of town. They're gone. Yeah, I miss them. But one of the big problems is if you change zoning to like the was MU2 for that lot there, big legal problems.
I don't see
Spot
that.
zoning. I think you're familiar with spot zoning. I think there was in Portsmouth, it was Mead or Beach versus Portsmouth, if you look it up. When a town changes the zoning of a particular lot to serve one person, that's a big problem. Now, perhaps other changes could be changed, for that where, you have like the resort commercial in front or something that does allow for another home, and then perhaps as a hardship, you can't put a big building in there that the other half would fall under the hardship so that you could develop the back half with the type of housing you're asking. And might want to look up I think it's something versus,
Yeah,
look
I
up
can
spot
talk to, I
housing
can talk to
online.
my attorney about it.
Bossy
When
versus
this was-
Portsmouth.
What is
when
it?
this was voted
Bossy?
in 2005, there was for one lot that was going to get approved, it was a brown site, and it missed by 2 votes. So the town was right on the verge of doing it, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm not. So they were right on the verge of doing it. You know, you have a 50-acre tract. Yeah, is that considered spot zoning? I don't know. I'd have to look into it, understand the legalities, but I'd be happy to have my attorney to check it out because the guy that I use, all he does is land. He's one of the premier land attorneys in the state, so I gotta meet with him
But
anyway.
you understand, if we say, okay, if we
I get it.
change
I
the
want-
zoning specifically for one person and not make it available for everybody else because they want it, that's an area
All
that,
zoning though has a boundary line at some point.
Yeah.
but
So-
usually not just one
No, but
individual
what we-
lot. So
What you could do though, by doing this, is you actually can control, like, let's say if you change all your zoning to be able to do housing in a village type setting, they have to have city water, city storage, it has to be a substantial amount of land. You're not gonna do it for a 1-acre site. So I think the argument that you're making is a good one, but I may be able to overcome that in the legality parts of it. I certainly don't wanna get caught up in some property that I get zoned, and then I'm in a lawsuit for the next 5 years.
or the town.
I
yeah.
don't need, or the town. but I
Usually it's
don't
the
need it
town that
either.
gets sued for
I
that.
don't need that either. And like I say, unless we really can get behind this and say, look, this is what we all know. The question is what it needs, the town needs. We all know there is no one staying around here. All of our kids, or any kids that we have, are all moved out of the area because you can go have them look in downtown apartments, and you can, they're just functionally obsolete. I don't even know how else to say it. The ones that my son is living in right now, and I have firsthand, he just moved here like 3 or 4 months ago. The electricity is very, very low. The heating is very, very low. They're well insulated. They may be expensive rent, but the supporting of it is that much. Again, all I'm trying to do is get a temperature of where we're gonna go. We would have to move relatively quickly, because if we wanted to do it, I'd like to get it on the town ballot for March. And if I came up and I got the temperature that said, everybody's saying, this isn't any good, we don't want this. Okay, I'll move on. So I'm just trying to get a feel for it. There's 2 other things I want to mention here, or one thing. So I can go and get it on the ballot by petition. I get 20 people to say that it's a good idea and it'll go to the town ballot. That's not really the right way for me to go about it. The right way to do it is have the support of the planning board, and they bring it forward. So the conversation is really with you 5 control. And I'll find out for sure, and you can check with your attorney, but I don't know if that's what spot zoning means.
Yeah,
I don't know.
So, I mean-
can you read what it is, spot zoning, on there, Eric?
Yeah.
I think it says right on there.
Oh, hold on.
Maybe we have to include.
I
a couple
am,
of
I am in
properties with
Google.
it.
I use the Google machine all the time.
He's the Google king.
So, I mean, couldn't we just
Also, we have,
zone larger than that single property? Couldn't there be
Well, we would.
a vote to zone, maybe 100 acres, including the surrounding, or if it's an issue with a single property, could he not subdivide that into, 10 5-acre lots, or, 25 2-acre lots, and then suddenly it's no longer a spot.
well, that's why if it comes from the planning board, they can do a good job of, one, you need to define this better. It's a pretty broad definition. You now have a zoning district that you've had on the books since 2005 with no land in it. I mean, that's kind of an oddity in any town, that you have a district that's not even on our maps because there's no land in it.
And for that zoning use being created, was there any minutes or anything where it was? And who
It was
brought it
petition.
forward?
It was a petition from Mansville property. Must have been a developer. I'm 2005. I was not around.
I remember, I know.
Yeah, it was a petition. It was a petition warrant article to create this district that passed. The second article was to then put lot XYZ, which was I believe, the Manville lots into this district, and that failed by just a couple of votes by petition. So now you've created a new district, which is in the ordinance,
A
with,
ghost.
right, which has no requirements. So if this is something that the board thinks is viable and is something the town could benefit from, one, you'd have to look at what land you'd want to put into it. And then you'd have to create a permitted uses, dimensional values, what are you going to look for? I mean, you'd have to write an ordinance for this district.
That land, the reason it was created was because of that land across from 3M. And they did all the work. They graded it and uprooted trees. And remember that?
Yeah.
That's what
MB
it
Tractor
came
was
from.
looking to go in
Yeah.
there.
That's
Yeah.
and they
Is that the one?
and yes,
Yeah.
that's the one.
Tractor owns a few, too. They own like.
And and that's
Yeah.
what they were going to do. That's where their location was going to be. And it was completely, the whole lot was changed. The town even went out and did some road work because the road slanted a certain way. Dennis Allen went out, changed the slope of the land. I mean, the road. I mean, it was a big deal, and it never came to fruition.
You know, some of the other.
We'd have to look at the master plan too, because that
I was on the planning board during that time.
the master plan specifically says to have distinct zones for, commercial mixed use, and for the resort type businesses in there. So we'd have to make changes to our master plan too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, everything's opportunities, solutions. And whether it's through a better way to allow for specific lots or creative ways.
You can keep that one.
It's borderline for hardship as well. Because
I mean, maybe
the cost
state
to
could
develop so
mandate
much.
It's a hardship because, but usually the hardship has to be inherent in the land.
And that's what I was saying, because if you have to have commercial out front, okay, then what do you do out back? So you're paying tax on that land, but commercial land, but you can't do anything with it. But you could put houses. You know what I mean?
I just want to
Creative, look for solutions in
I just
all
want
areas.
to read that makes this property so unique for us. I just want to read a little bit more of this here, and it says that the village-like setting where water and storage is available.
Mhm.
I can't think of how many lots you have that are that size in this town where city water and storage is available to make a village-type like setting. So, the district was approved in March of 2005, but does not show on the tax map for the town of Tilton, as no land has been approved for the district. And you're right, this isn't gonna be a simple thing, and I sit here half the time saying, do I really wanna take this on? Because now I have to go out and I have to get someone who's gonna wanna be in the assisted living facility business that wants to be up in there. We've gotta get some apartments in there to help support them. We have, the stores down front, I have no issues with that. I know that I can make a village type setting with the stores. But there's no sense, and very few people are going to take that endeavor when they can't even fill the beds because they don't have people to change the beds. They don't have any of the LNAs. They don't have any place for them to live. Anyways, I don't know where, it's up to you guys if you want to do with it, go with this. I don't know if you want me to bring in some more information or how do you want to proceed?
This isn't the first I've heard of this either, because there was another gentleman that's contacted me that has a business, but he can't, again, his workers have no place to live and he wants to move up in this area and build a facility. And so he's looking for a place where he can put a manufacturing business and housing for his employees all in the same, on the same lot. So he was looking for a large lot, and this seems to starting to make sense for a lot of different business people. So I kind of told him the same thing. We have this district, but there's nothing in it. And if we do, I mean, that might be an opportunity. So he was looking at the Manville property himself because he was looking at something that was close to the railroad because he utilizes that. What's that?
He contacted me today.
He did? Is he going with the Manville property? Oh.
Doesn't want the brown site, he's coming to look at my site again. And so that may do it, but again, he'll be putting in a business that puts wood together, which is allowed, light manufacturing.
It's a prefab type of, right?
Prefab woods, he sells them all over the country, and that's allowed in that district. And then he wants to put 18 houses or so up behind it. But then now you've just taken the 50 acres, right? Got another, he has 50 employees. He can't get housing for them. He's gonna provide housing for 18 of them, and that's gonna be the end of the use of the land.
Right.
And if that's.
And that'll be good for his business, but nobody, I'm not,
Right,
right.
it'd be good for me because I'm,
Right.
but it doesn't do serve the town really anything.
I mean, I did read through all of the zoning regulations at, relatively recently, and it does on paper seem very problematic to do anything besides one thing on a property. And even there are limitations beyond, providing housing for, more than, 4 to 8 people on a single, piece of property. So the problem of not having affordable housing for workers in town in order to enable more, businesses, doing event or, resort type stuff, requires us to be less discriminatory about, where housing is allowed. Like I would make you the argument that any existing single family in town should be able to be converted into a multifamily regardless of where it is, because then you're suddenly potentially, doubling or tripling the amount of housing involved in town. But you can't do that. Most places at best you can do an in-law addition or, standalone structure, and, there's not a lot of incentive for people to come in and make a lot of housing, it seems.
Actually, there's actually an interesting article on plannersweb.com. I don't know if you use that one. And they talk about process of signaling out a small parcel of land. 50 acres to me isn't small. For use of a classification totally different to that of the surrounding area for the benefit of an owner of such property and to the detriment of other owners. But then it goes further on, and it talked about in Homer, Alaska, it benefited the city as a whole by changing the zoning. So just interesting stuff.
And throughout the state right now, I mean, this is what's being done. If you look in any of these towns, they are all looking at these village type districts. Londonderry's doing it. Nashwa's done it. Salem has Tuscan Village. Concord, as Mr. Damon said, is looking at doing that up on the heights. I mean, this is really what New Hampshire is looking at right now with trying to combine housing and commercial on these sites. And I am not an attorney, but I know spot zoning is to prevent, like he said, from just saying, well, I'm just going to allow, I like John, so let's make his little piece industrial and he can put a business there and the neighbor can't. But, mixed use too is a broader type of innovative land use, is really what you're trying to do, is innovative land use or performance type zone, which is now seems to be the way of a lot of these communities in New Hampshire. Tilton just has to decide if that's something they want in their community. And I think that's really what John's here for, is to find out if this is something that, a lot of the bigger communities, again, Concord, Nashua, Londonderry, Salem are doing. So
I think it's going to come to this, and I think to be ahead of it rather than be in a position at the back end of it and being forced to do it.
Yeah.
Well, there won't be
It's
this
not
many
what we want.
opportunities. There's not this many big tracts of land with city water and storage. There isn't. Just so it is taking the bulls by the horn and saying, hey, there's an opportunity here. It's not certainly won't be the easiest thing I can do with it. I grant you that. But
Well, I remember,
So,
yeah, and
John, would you
Costco, huh?
think of going to ZBA and asking instead of changing the whole thing so that it's just the one lot? And since throwing all your eggs in one basket, going
No,
to,
I understand.
the meeting and then you're out for a year,
I
that's
understand
the,
that, but
yeah,
I also
go both
understand
ways.
and I'd love to do it that way.
Hmm.
That's easier, simple, right? But in my mind, you have to prove hardship. I was on the zoning board in Tilton, believe it or not. I served on these. I lived here in Tilton. I started off from School Street and lived down here on Route 3 for a long time. So I've been on these boards and stuff, and I know a little bit about it. And I don't understand how I can prove hardship. Hardship has to be inherent in the land. It's not inherent in the land, it's inherent in the zoning. If anything, that's creating this hardship for us is that there isn't that much land available with city water and city storage. Look, and again, they can be very broad and they can do it. I would try that if you suggest that you think that's the route I should go. I think, I don't know if that would fly, but I'd be happy to try it. I'm not turning anything down.
Opportunities for solutions, and that's what it's about, and thinking outside the box. And like I said, if there's something commercial going in the front, you can't put commercial businesses back there to make any type of money off of it, and it would be detrimental to develop that as a business with wetlands and all that behind, and the amount of driving that in and out for a business of that size. So you'd lose money on the lot. But if you put those other type of housing, that's a route that I'm thinking. I don't want to coach you too much, but I think I'm going with that.
I do. I understand where you're going, and I'm open to everything. I'm not trying to. I'm like, okay, that sounds very creative solution.
Can does the zoning board have the power to rezone specific lots?
Nobody does. Grant a variance. They could say, you know what, that's great. You have to have very specific things. And one of them is hardship, which is usually the hardest one to prove because
Can't be economic, though. Can't be economic.
It could have to do with the type of land that it is, the contours of the land, the location, the in egress, and all that.
I mean, so it seems like
So there's a couple different avenues, and I would think that could go two ways because you don't, like I said, all your eggs in one basket, and then it doesn't go through. Now you wasted a year, and then you also have to go before zoning, and they say, well, nobody in town wanted this. You had the opportunity to vote on it. So, and going the other way might be.
Probably should go both ways.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
If this is something that you want to support, then I would ask for you to bring it to the ballot, and they would have to create a lot of work for me, and I know that it is, because you're going to have to create, what's the density and the whole bit. I'll let everybody go home. I'm sorry to keep you this late.
Right,
Plant a good seed.
Thank you.
we have minutes to approve. I didn't see anything wrong with them. I don't know about anybody else.
Oh,
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as written.
Second.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
regards to the minute, page 2, Tom Jamin joined the meeting. What does that mean?
You came into the meeting.
And on
it
page,
put what time you came in.
and on page 1, it says Tom Damon arrived at 6:15.
Yeah.
So what's that mean? I don't understand. I arrived or I joined? I mean, why is my name mentioned in two places?
Well, in the attendance, I think it says that you arrived at 6:15 because you weren't there at the beginning.
I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that part of it.
And I think Mr. Scanlon had said he wanted noted on the minutes when someone arrives, so they know where they're voting in the
What time did we start the meeting?
6.
6 o'clock.
Was it at 6?
Oh, I see now.
And he went to the police station instead of coming here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's at that point where I was eligible for the voting. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I understand.
So that who was eligible for
Okay,
vote?
thank you.
You
Yep.
were eligible and you did vote.
All right.
I know there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you, John.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for the time.